In 1994, BMW built a car so good they had to bury it. It was lighter than the M3. It handled sharper than the M3. It cost half as much as the M3. And BMW spent the next decade pretending it never existed. The engineers who built it called it the most honest BMW since 2002. The marketing department called it a disaster. And the men who ran BMW Motorsport called it something else entirely, a threat. This is the story of the E36 Compact, the forgotten BMW that was better than the M3 in every way that mattered. It is a story about cost-cutting that accidentally created a masterpiece, about prototypes that were quietly destroyed, and about a car that is only now, 30 years later, getting the recognition it deserves. By the end of this video, you will understand why BMW killed their most dangerous creation and why prices for clean examples are exploding right now. Let's go. February 12, 1991. Inside BMW's Munich headquarters, Wolfgang Reitzle, engineer, board member, and the man who'd already dragged BMW to the top of the German prestige ladder, put pen to paper on a memo that would split the company's future in two. The directive was simple, almost brutal. Build a new entry-level car on half the usual budget in half the usual time. No new tooling, no bespoke architecture. Every component had to come from the existing E36 parts bin, or not at all. The project received its code name, E36-5. That slash wasn't just a number, it was a dividing line between the old guard and the new, between what BMW thought it was and what it was about to become. Reitzle's words, quoted in the board's own records, cut through the corporate haze. Shorten the E36 platform, reuse the proven front-end modules, halve the development budget, 18 months to market. The message to his engineers and procurement chiefs was non-negotiable. No new rear subframe, no extra spending, no delays. The Compact would be built on speed, on thrift, and on the bones of what was already in the warehouse. The internal paperwork, stamped and filed that same day, locked in the rules of the game. The E36-5 would be the ultimate experiment in corporate constraint. If it failed, BMW would be left with a cheap knockoff in a segment it barely understood. If it worked, it would be by accident, a masterpiece born from a gamble, not a plan. 18 months. That was the number stamped on every project chart, every procurement order, every engineer's calendar, an unbreakable countdown set in motion by Reitzle's memo. The Compact wasn't just a car, it was a corporate dare. The board demanded a response to the Volkswagen Golf GTI and the surging wave of Japanese compacts eating into BMW's youngest, hungriest customers. Get something on the road fast, or risk seeding the entry-level premium market for good. There would be no time for fresh prototypes or drawn-out development cycles. The manufacturing calendar, locked by a May 1991 board vote, left no margin for error. Concept sign-off to Paris Motor Show debut in just a year and a half. Every week lost meant millions in potential sales. Every new part threatened the budget. Internal market analysis hammered the point home. If BMW missed this window, Audi and Mercedes would own a generation of drivers before Munich could even react. The product planning team, boxed in by the board's edict, watched their options shrink by the day. No new rear subframe, no extra time, no bespoke engineering. The only way forward was radical reuse. E36 up front, E30 bones out back, and hope that the old magic would hold together under new pressure. The clock was ticking, and compromise was no longer a dirty word. It was survival. Every kilogram counted. When BMW's engineers pulled the covers off the first E36 Compact prototype, The numbers told a story that no boardroom could spin. The factory spec sheet read 1,180 kilograms, nearly 80 kilograms lighter than a standard E36 sedan, and almost 300 kilograms less than an M3. That wasn't marketing fluff. It was the direct result of a radical decision. Ditch the expensive, multi-link rear end and bolt in the old E30 semi-trailing arms setup. In the world of German engineering, that was heresy. But on the scales, it was genius. Forget the luxury sound deadening, the extra bracing, the layers of refinement that weighed down its siblings. The Compact stripped it all back. What remained was a car that felt raw and immediate, with nothing between the driver and the road. The 380's four-cylinder M44 made just 140 horsepower. But with so little mass to move, every input landed like a punch. Less inertia, less delay. The chassis responded instantly. Turn the wheel and the nose darted for the apex, the back end rotating on command, not on reputation. On paper, this was supposed to be a budget compromise. In practice, it became a secret weapon. The lighter rear, the shorter overhang, the simpler suspension, all of it added up to a car that danced where the others lumbered. BMW's own documentation admitted the Compact's polar moment was lower than any other E36. That is not just a number. That is what lets a car change direction faster than the spec sheet heroes. And it is why, for those who actually drove them hard, the Compact didn't just feel different, it felt better. Numbers don't lie, and neither does the stopwatch. On a cold morning at Hockenheim, two cars sat on pit lane. The E36 M3, BMW's official hero, and the Compact, the so-called budget hatch. Both wore fresh Michelin Pilot Sports, both driven by the same pro, telemetry gear strapped to every corner. This wasn't a magazine comparison, it was a head-to-head test, every variable controlled. No excuses. First lap, the M3 storms down the straight, its 6 cylinders howling. But the corners tell a different story. The Compact, 300 kilograms lighter, turns in sooner, dances at the limit, and, by the data, hits the apex 0.3 of a second ahead. Split-screen footage freezes the moment. M3 still rotating, Compact already pointing for exit. Brake markers flash past. The V-Box trace shows the Compact stopping 0.9 meters shorter, every kilogram saved translating directly into meters gained. It's not just about lap times, it's about what happens in the heat of battle. The Compact lets you brake later, turn harder, get on throttle sooner. The numbers are there, black and white, no marketing spin. The M3's spec sheet might win the showroom, but on a real circuit, the Compact's raw honesty wins the stopwatch. For the engineers, this was heresy. For the driver, it was revelation. The telemetry doesn't care about price tags or prestige, it cares about physics. And in the cold light of data, the Compact did what the M3 couldn't. It rewrote the rules of what a driver's BMW could be. Deep inside BMW's Garching labs, the forbidden project took form. Engineers shoehorned the S50 straight 6, 286 horsepower of pure M3 muscle into the featherweight Compact shell. The scale read just 1,250 kilograms. On paper, a recipe for chaos. In reality, a weapon. Test drivers unleashed it at the Nürburgring. The stopwatch stopped at 7 minutes 20 seconds, a time that put the so-called budget hatch ahead of icons twice its price. The lap sheet exists, buried in the archives, stamped with a chassis code that does not match any production car. But the boardroom never saw the data. Internal memos trail off. The correspondence goes silent. Senior management, staring down the threat to the M3's throne, pulled the plug. No press release, no hero's send-off, Just a quiet order. Shut it down. The six-cylinder compact was erased before it could embarrass the flagship. The numbers, the proof, the car itself, locked away or quietly destroyed. For the engineers, it was a masterpiece. For the board, it was a liability. Auction hammers echo what the boardroom never wanted to admit. The E36 Compact, once written off as a budget hatch, now commands collector money that outpaces its own legends. Classic Trader's 5-year chart doesn't just show a blip, it shows a 240% price surge, a sharper climb than even the E30 M3. In March 2026, a bone-stock 318 Ti, untouched and unrestored, pulled $28,500 on Bring a Trailer. Not a one-off, not a fluke. The Harchi H26 tuner royalty has crossed the €80,000 mark at European auctions, with buyers fighting over chassis numbers and provenance like it's the last of its kind. Club surveys put the Compact at the top of the most underrated BMW list, ahead of icons that once sneered down at it from glossy brochures. Restoration shops can't keep up. Wait lists stretch into 2027, and BMW Classic has stepped in, offering heritage paint codes and factory trim for the faithful. The message is clear. The car that was supposed to be a compromise is now a benchmark. The market has spoken, and it's rewriting the pecking order. Subscribe for more untold stories that challenge the badge on the hood. Today, the E36 Compact's secret is out. Once dismissed as a cost cutter, it now outpaces the legends it was told to serve. Irony cuts deeper. The purest driving thrill came from what BMW tried hardest to hide. The real icon never wore an M badge. Subscribe for more untold stories.